Aridif, that is Ridif. In this is it spelled. We understand you have many queries for this evening, but before diving into those queries, there are two things in which we wish to express. The first, above and beyond all things, express within this day, to know, to feel, and to perceive that you are loved, in our perspective, is of the utmost importance. Secondly, is our greatest excitement, and within that same great excitement in which we co-create with you, you may begin your queries at your leisure.
Thank you, Aridif. It's a real pleasure to be talking to you for the first time.
Yes, of course, it is our greatest excitement.
So I've been talking to Rob I've been having some sessions with Rob about my channeling, and so my questions are going to be around that today. So just listening to Rob's fairly elaborate preparation to bring you through then, I guess one of my questions is that when I connect with my guide, the goddess Maat, really all I have to do is go into a light trance and tune into the energy of her, which I can feel coming into the right side of my face, and she is there. Now, I've been told that that is because she is around me all the time now, and I'd like to hear your perspective on that.
Yes, of course. The integration process of two entities that co-create with one another is something that, as you are aware, grows within time of co-creation. This example, this experience, is something that is slightly different. It is something in where the co-creation has always been a part of the co-created atmosphere between the both of you. This energy is something that has grown closer, but has already had a large part of energetic co-creation. Even when not directly connecting with your energy, this entity has been within your experience from the time of your birth, although the entity would stay further away from your energy, energetically speaking, at a certain point of your experience for the last 15 of your years. The integration process has been both thorough and has been in the exact same co-creative atmosphere, and that energy allowed your own co-creation to be much stronger one than most humans that do not work with their guides before connecting with him.
Thank you. So that makes me think of the question that into the family that I was born into, I have always been a bit of an oddity. I felt different. And even as a small child, I was very focused on the truth and getting to the truth and seeing the truth and not lying. And then when I found out who Maat was, that she was the goddess of truth, justice and harmony, that really resonated with me. So was I like that? Is my personality like that? And it was like that as a child because of this connection I have with Maat?
Yes and no. The energy of what you are is from your own internal auspice. It is from your own connection, your own process of energy, and partially is responsible from the vibrational learning that occurred around you. Those adults that are in your experience that vibrationally taught you from your birthing time till the time where you begin to have your own cognizant thought process. At that period in time, your energy opened to that experience of co-creating with her because your energies were so closely aligned. Part of the energies of co-creation is also vibrational learning from entities in which you co-create with from the higher dimensional realm. This is why, as we work with Rob, we become closer in co-creative means. Although Rob's own energies having the possibility to go in whatever direction he desires, as he comes into a state of clarity, our vibrations are of a very perfect alignment. And because of your own energy, your own desire before entering physical reality in the construct and archetypal formed energy that you were, also allowed that creation to become stronger, and eventually, after co-creating with one another, it brought you closer and closer to the archetype of energy in which she comes from. Yes, of course, part of this was to test the rigidity of beliefs within yourself. Part of it was to help form the rigidity in parts in which you needed more rigidity. If you look at the construct overall, truth in the way that humans experience is finite. There is one level of truth or multiple levels of truth within one larger finite level of truth. And this construct creates a certain energy of being able to be right, to be wrong, to be within any spectrum of the correct and incorrect. That part of your energy was needed to be tested. When you can perceive, for example, the family members with their own personal interpretation of truth, when they are lying, believing their own lies, to them that is truth. So you struggle with that energy in order to continue hardening and supporting the beliefs that needed to be experienced in order to co-create this formed energy of channeling and co-creation, and soften the other beliefs that did not need to be as rigid or as hard for you to go through that expression. So as you co-create, of course, that experience allowed you to build your perfect map to open that expression of what your archetypal consciousness was. And this energy does not stop existing, even though you still have co-creations with those around you that deal with levels of truth that are only evident to oneself. There is that prescription of energy that comes from your archetype that allows your own self to come back into your truth and your hardness of energy about none other that is not justified, none other that is off balance or imbalance, and bring back an energy of only resonance, of only what is resonant with yourself, and allow other co-creations not to affect you nearly as deeply or as difficultly as other human beings would allow themselves to co-create in that situation. The energies that you have as you co-create with this entity specifically only allow that energetic co-creation between yourself and her to be more strengthened in alignment.
Okay, so why is it that I have connected with the goddess Maat? What is the history between us that caused me to be aligned with her?
Yes, there are multiple levels that are involved with this. Part of this is previous incarnations in which this specific goddess is one that you praised. Other incarnations in which this specific goddess was present in front of you. Others in which you co-created in higher dimensional form as the entity herself, and others where you co-created with entities that were around that goddess formed energy. As you perceive the goddess energy, as you are well aware, there are multiple levels that are involved within the construct of God-goddess energy within the entirety of the Earth collective consciousness and outside of the Earth collective consciousness. The archetype itself is the representation of the goddess, the archetype in which not only the higher realms in the higher matrices of the universal construction, but also in higher dimensional form and in the Earth's archetypal manifestation guide that one energy exists as a blueprint in order to create or to manifest and incarnate into that experience, and also themes that are played with in the Earth collective through collective conscious and individuals alike. That energy, as it is brought through by the individuals and the co-created collective, are also manifesting downwards into the manifestation of those archetypes as a collective version or as a singular entity, and their own personal expression feeds the energy of the collective archetype. Therefore, the small fraction of consciousness that you are comparatively feeds that expression at its highest form, and vice versa. the highest form feeding your lower fractal consciousness. This is larger than Oversoul collective consciousness. It is part of all of the Earth collective, 144,000 Oversouls in combination. There are a great deal of those entities that exist. Also, as you see your historic map towards your linear past in the Earth co-created collective consciousness, that archetype took foot in multiple other iterations up, what you would perceive as higher dimensional beings manifesting themselves physically into your reality, as all of those that fit in the goddess archetype of justice and truth. You can perceive that these extra dimensionals or extraterrestrials from some human perspectives took their own experience into the earth, took on that energy, and then took on that identity. Many of those that hold that identity you also have incarnated with or around that presence. It is a multiple experience, co-creation of your own desire, of your singular fractal consciousness to have re-inviting into each incarnation that it is relevant for. And this experience is your finale of co-creations. It is your life coming from multiple smaller iterations or experience and higher density iterations. You're delving into the archetype and you're fueling the archetype and bringing it at one place at one time.
That's interesting. I said to Rob the other day that when the goddess Maat enters the right side of my face, that really I can feel an intensity of energy and pressure, but there's no feeling with it. And I said to Rob the other day that maybe it's just because it's like she's part of my body, like I can't tell the difference between my left arm and my right arm. They all feel the same to me. So you said that I was her in some other dimensions, some other time frames. So is that why I can only feel the energy? I can't feel, like some people say when they channel, they feel, incredible feelings of love or oneness or whatever, and I don't feel any of that. Is that why?
Yes, of course. You are the smallest part of the archetypal consciousness. You are tapping in to both the larger essence of that archetype and fractals within that larger archetype. For example, in the moments in where you are at your clearest energy and co-creative peak, your energy works with higher realms of the archetype within collective consciousness. It is akin to your own energy channeling several hundred entities at once as an entire collective. And when you go down into the vibration of earth experience alone and work with the lower vibrational subjects with others as they dive more deeply into their only earth-based expressions, then of course you can not need to pull as high from that energetic source and go into the other fractals of that consciousness. Yes, they are lower fractals of the collective consciousness, but higher fractals of consciousness than your personal incarnative fractal consciousness. So it is still going upwards. It is just not nearly as high upwards as what would be required for some subjects that are much more in depth, the greater truths of the universe, the greater manifestations of incarnations, etc.
So from a historic perspective, and I did history at university, so I'm a bit of a historian. From a historic perspective, I noted that Maat had been called many things through many ancient civilizations. For instance, she was called Mami, she was called Ninma, Ninsurhag, Ops, and one of the names that she was called in Greece, ancient Greek, was Reea. And in 2010, when I was looking to change my name from Jan because I didn't like it, I asked my daughters what I should call myself, and it was my daughter Georgia that came up with the name Reea, which I adopted. But then I found out who Maat was after that, and I realised that was one of her names. So I've always been intrigued why that information came through my daughter and not through me. Can you talk about that?
Yes, of course, if it had come through your own self with the way that your mental structure works, the logical part of your own mind, you would have expressed, I must have heard this as a younger child, and it stuck in my subconscious, therefore I pulled out, thus confusing your energy even more so. The level of trust that is required for the experience is already shown to you present and clear. To circumvent certain energies, you will have them come from external co-creations rather than internal. That way there's no mistake that it did not come from the recesses of your own subconscious or unconscious portions of the construct.
Fabulous. So I want to know how I'm going with my channeling, and so I've been practicing with Rob, going into a deeper trance state and doing my readings with people channeling with my eyes closed, as opposed to how I was doing it before I started working with Rob, which was opening and closing my eyes at various times throughout the reading. And basically, I'm a counselor, so I counsel people, and then when they ask me a question that I don't know the answer to, I could close my eyes and connect with Maat and pull the information in that way. So what I want to know is, what's the best way for me to do this channeling thing? Is it keeping my eyes closed the whole time like Rob does and trying to go into the deepest trance that I possibly can, or just doing it my own way, opening and closing my eyes?
Yes, both of these have equal measure if your trust within yourself and your ability to not allow visual stimulus to overwhelm the mindset. For example, if there is someone wearing bright colors, constantly fidgeting and moving around, that can bring slight distractions, which drops the clarity or resistancelessness within yourself slightly. But both of these can be equal if you do not feel distracted, or if you do not perceive yourself as having resistance within the co-creation. Both of these are effective. We'd always suggest to all humans to work with their eyes closed at first in order to divert attention to those that distract or any stimulus that would. But within your own energy, you have practiced through this long enough where it is not a consideration, only the consideration to your beliefs and to the possibility of distractions that come. But if you desired to pass backwards and forwards, your eyes open and close, of course, then you can close them if visualization starts being distraction.
So that begs the question: am I bringing through the right information? I have a huge desire to be authentic and tell people the truth, obviously. So what's the way for me to do it where I'm being as good at it as I possibly can?
Yes, if you are doing what you are doing in this moment, that is going to be your greatest pathway of energetic opening and continuation. If you are asking to scale the energy in which you are receiving and which you are sharing outward, it is perfect as it is in the moments that you allow yourself to flow. There are times where there can be subconscious energies that will come not up to the surface but from the bottom, start bubbling up and then a rebalancing. And even in those times the information is still in accurate format, but it is not expressed approximately in the same way that it would be. Now we understand yourself and Rob had spoken to one another in which the time your own channeling had occurred. In that moment we were not only aware of the co-creation, but we were also present with Rob in a deep way, entrenched within the physical body and co-creating with a level of conscious perspective and perception of that co-creation. As he shared with you, the energies that were relevant and were within the co-creation of yourself with a proper amount of information were within the higher levels of all entities that are human that work with a channeled state. Therefore, there's no worries or concerns within that place of energetic co-creation. Now we understand your immediate desires to have 100% accuracy and 100% expression in the way that she would bring forward the information for you to express. But to have that level of expectation can create more resistance and make those levels lower, as the possibility of humans to accurately portray 100% of the translations of thought energy to words, or direct words to words, or the co-creation of feelings to words and downloaded varieties cannot be at 100 and 100 at all times. To be in your high percentages of 85 and higher is extremely uncommon for the human collective consciousness, and what you are doing is well within this range.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, of course.
That's wonderful to hear. Why is it that I feel very comfortable answering other people's questions, but I feel that I don't have access to Maat's answers for my questions?
Yes, this is a common occurrence within the co-creation of those that channel and the entities that work with them. As we work with Rob, we understand what he knows. We are able to process the thoughts in his own mind, his knowledge base, and his emotional base. When he works with the question, and we give our own answer, we take this into account. There's complaints from his own perspective that the answers that we would give another would be in great detail, and what we co-create with him would be in much less detail, but we understand what he knows, and that work for him to find the other portions of that answer is also important to continue building and expanding his own capacity for us and other entities to bring forward energy through him in the most accurate and the most healthy format available.
So just to finish up, I'd just like to ask you if you have any suggestions about the direction of my work with women. Mostly I work with women now, so channeling and counselling and doing psychotherapy. What do you see about my direction that might be helpful?
Yes, of course. The energies that were bestowed upon these entities is one that has given them great relief, great help, great acceptance, and great growth. This, of course, is a very great gift that is given to those that desire the co-creation. In terms of what you are doing for what you desire, it is in perfect alignment with what you are doing. If you desire to have parts of your energy open to larger groups of entities or larger perspectives of entities, and to create both higher quantity of what you are able to do, and you are desiring to continue raising your own financial abundance, this can be done through multiple ways, but the one that is least resistant for you is to take energies in which you are sharing with others and to create multiple formats in which to share that with, and to have that experience for the benefit of your own self. But by sharing, we are meeting through multiple formats of video, audio, written, and in live facing others, and do so simply starting with what excites you the most from all of those aspects, and continue sharing the information. And after you work with that construct and continue pushing it even further, then you will notice that the higher percentages of those that would come to you can come to you and will find you and perceive you. The energy and location and where you are at has multiple beings that are going to resonate with your own energy, but they are not seen by yourself at this moment. They are not perceived by yourself in this moment. Most of this has to do with your own comfort level of where you are. once you feel as if you are ready for the next step will come for you effortlessly.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Aridif. That was just wonderful. I'm so grateful.
Yes, of course. It is our greatest excitement to have co-created with you. Before we disconnect, we wish to express that as we have co-created, you are asking queries with questions and answers, parts of your energy that we have never perceived before. And as we have not perceived that energy, and as we are all part of one energy, it allows us to start perceiving the parts of our own energy that we have yet to perceive. Therefore, as you are growing, so too do we grow. We congratulate you for that growth, and we thank you for our growth.
Thank you. Thank